Can Wonder Woman face off with her greatest enemies? Her family? Welcome to the Complete Story Series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read it dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panels, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Diana has recently been trying to recover a child of Zeus, the last of the line, and protect it from her family, the gods of Olympus. She did manage to finally save Zeke with the help of Orion, the new god, and Ares, the god of war. Now, she just has to keep that child safe. But up in Olympus, Dio brings Artemis a glass of wine while she waits for her brother. The king of Olympus, since Zeus went missing, arrives. As the day ends, Apollo lands on his terrace. Artemis and Dio explain to Apollo what just happened. War has seemingly lost his mind and he helped Diana retrieve the child. They thought maybe War had been suffering from his age, but then it was confirmed. Zeke, the child that Diana has been protecting, is in fact the child of prophecy, the offspring of Zeus that will murder a god and seize the throne. Meanwhile, deep in the waters of the ocean, the child of Zeus that everyone should be worrying about finds himself in the belly of Poseidon himself. The firstborn looks around, and he sees an image of Poseidon. Poseidon knows the firstborn's power, and he knows that he has come to the ocean to retrieve the weapon that Poseidon took from him all of those centuries ago. He wants to make a bargain. If he gives the firstborn his weapon, he keeps his war in the heavens alone, and he leaves the ocean and hell to his betters. The firstborn grabs a crab's arm and slams it down, taking his sword, and he puts it to Poseidon's throat. I say no. Be sure to inform hell. While this is happening, Diana and her friends are walking around with Zeke while Orion makes his usual sexist comments, naming Diana Legs. She smacks him to the ground, telling him to respect her. But that's when something happens to him. His face grows all red and evil looking. He gets up and he walks out of the hotel room. Poseidon continues his offer to the firstborn. If you kill me now, you will be trapped forever in my belly, so agree to this oath in blood or stay here forever. The firstborn reluctantly agrees, and then Poseidon fills him in. As a part of this arrangement, Hades will release your armies from hell, but you'll need to fight the lastborn, the true heir to the throne. The firstborn then crawls out of the ocean and he prepares for his next mission. That's when Poseidon appears before Apollo to inform him that Apollo has no respect for traditions. Apollo tells him that it is time for a change, and Poseidon simply chuckles. Perhaps it will be soon enough. Artemis appears before the hotel room everyone is staying in, and she walks through the window telling Diana she is here to kill the baby. Exactly what Diana was told to do by Apollo. And Diana isn't about to have that, so she tackles Artemis. Zola runs into the living room with Zeke, telling everyone that Diana is fighting the moon. Their fight quickly moves outside with Artemis taunting Diana. Come on, Amazon! Remove your cuffs! Reveal your true power! You won't catch me off guard this time! And then she throws Diana off the roof, asking her, why are you afraid of becoming a god? And then she throws blades of the moon at her. Diana dodges them and they begin landing in the streets and into the building where all of her friends are staying, causing explosions. That's when Ares looks up from his window. Diana's friends all run from the building trying to get Zeke to safety, but Diana didn't see them leave. So while Artemis is wrecking Diana, throwing her to the ground, she gets her lasso around Artemis's waist and tries to throw her back down to the ground with her, only to have Artemis pull back up and pull Diana into the air. As she's flying, she hits Artemis and then throws her down to the ground below with all of her might. She then begins to beat on Artemis as Artemis is trying to tell her to stop holding back. Her power will explode in her face this way. And Diana tells her, or in yours, and she goes in for another swing, and that's when Ares grabs her, telling her enough. He tells her that your friends have survived the explosions, and you might need to go find them. So Diana leaves while Ares brings Artemis back up to Olympus. But things aren't over yet. The firstborn arrives with the woman that he's been traveling with, just as Lennox, Hera, and Zola are carrying Zeke to safety. The woman finally introduces herself as Cassandra, one of the children of Zeus, but Hera recognizes her firstborn, her first child. Cassandra is the sister that Lennox almost killed. Her god power was to command people to do things, and she killed so many innocents. So Lennox ripped out her vocal cords. This is her revenge, to bring back the firstborn, but it doesn't matter. The firstborn is now bored. Hera runs over to him. She saved his life. She convinced the witch to spare him. And he tells her, do you know what kind of life I've had? He then strikes Hera just as Diana is rocketing in and she sees her friends and sees somebody striking Hera. Because of this, she knows the firstborn isn't friendly. She tackles him to the ground as Zola runs off with Zeke. But Zola doesn't get very far before Cassandra throws a pipe into the wall to stop her. Cassandra explains to Zola that she wants the child Zeke so that he can end the world. And at that moment, Zeke's eyes begin to glow bright with power. Over at the firstborn, he is throwing Diana around and Lennox begins to hit him with his own sword, but the firstborn hits him so hard that he cracks Lennox's face with a single hit. Diana runs back over, flipping the firstborn to the ground, and then they both smack him in the head, so he grabs both of them by their throats. Enough! Only who I am matters! I am the one with no name, the crippler of souls! The firstborn heaven belongs to me! And he buries both Diana and Lennox in the ground. Next to them, they all hear boom as a boom tube opens up and Orion kicks the firstborn in the face. He jumps into the fight, going back and forth with the firstborn until he gets thrown into a building, and the firstborn shouts, "I will be the last one standing!" Orion gets back up. "Well, you're gonna have to beat me down then." And they go back at it. Meanwhile, over with Zeke and Zola, whatever Zeke just did knocked Cassandra out, saving Zola. And Orion's space contraption comes over to get her. With Orion losing to the firstborn, Diana comes over and hits him with everything, throwing him right out of the fight, just as Zola comes riding up with Orion's machine. They all get on it and they activate a boom tube to get out of there, but the firstborn is so powerful that he grabs the edges of the boom tube and he begins to open it with his bare hands. This makes it so the exit won't open, trapping everyone in the boom tube. The entrance has to close first. Lennox looks at everyone, and he knows what he has to do. He kisses Zeke on the cheek. "Be a good boy and mind your mother." And then he jumps off, falling towards the firstborn, chanting, "No one likes us! No one likes us! No one likes us! We don't care! We are Millwall! Super Millwall! We are Mill!" And then he winds up with a mighty punch and he lands on the firstborn, pushing him out of the boom tube, finishing his chant. The explosion is massive and it closes the tube, and finally, they are able to leave. Things might not be so friendly though, as Orion brought them to New Genesis, the home of the new gods. They spend a few days recovering, but the High Father wants to keep the child there for the safety of the multiverse, and he banishes Wonder Woman, Hera, and Zola back to Earth. But this isn't what Orion wanted, and he knows what he has to do, so he grabs the baby and he follows his friends. There has to be a better way than separating a mother from her child. But once they return to London a few days later, nothing is as it seems. The whole city is burning. Diana walks to the center where the firstborn now sits on a throne that he has made for himself, and Lennox's head is at his feet. The firstborn then welcomes his army of hyena men to the party because he feels that they are hungry. And Ares, the god of war, walks in chugging a bottle of whiskey, asking if he's late. Diana starts the fight by throwing her lasso around the hyena men and spinning them around, dropping a bunch of them, but there are a lot more. War walks over to summon his own army, all of the soldiers in existence that have died and are hungry for more war. Everyone begins an all-out battle, and Zola and Hera are just trying to protect each other and Zeke. And Orion jumps over the combatants and he lands right on the firstborn so that he can bring the fight to the head of the army. The firstborn throws him into a wall and then he drops a stone block on him, shouting, "Wonder Woman, you're next!" Diana knows that this is not a fight that she can take lightly, so she removes her bracers, revealing the powers of a god. She charges right into him, slamming him into a wall, and then at lightning speeds, she lifts him off the ground, bringing the fight into the skies. "You are a monster, selfish, cruel, entitled. You're everything that I am not, and if I have to destroy you, I will not hesitate." The firstborn smiles through the blood smeared on his face. "You just did. Gaze into your mirror and see what you're capable of." He then grabs her and he throws her back into the ground. He gets up looking at Zeke, the child of the prophecy. Hera tries to get in the way, but he grabs her by the throat, so Ares shoots him in the head. "That is no way to treat your mother." The firstborn walks over to him and they go back and forth for a second, but eventually the firstborn grabs Ares by the throat and he pins him against the wall. Diana gets up realizing that she's lost control, and she puts back on her bracers, thinking to herself the advice of Ares: sometimes it's best not to be who we are, but who we aspire to be. She looks at Ares and he looks at her. She knows what she needs to do. She grabs the spear, running it through Ares and into the firstborn's stomach. Both Ares and the firstborn hit the ground, dying, with blood spewing out of Ares' mouth, and Diana rushes to his side. War. There was no, but he finishes it for her. "Other way. You took the warrior's path. I'm proud of you. I would have done the same. I'm sorry for the burden that you must now shoulder, and I won't be around to gloat, watching you live up to it. Wonder Woman, keep me in your heart." While Ares is passing on, the firstborn is dragging himself over the ground, bleeding everywhere. "I will slaughter both! My hate is eternal! I cannot be stopped!" And then Zola hits him over the head with a log, knocking him out. A-hole. Hades appears before Diana, and all of the soldiers of war stop to watch. Hera runs over, kissing her son goodbye, and Diana picks up the body of Ares to carry him into the afterlife. As they leave, she asks Hades if he's going to be taking the firstborn as well. "That depends. Are you going to finish him?" "There's been enough killing for today," Diana says. Hades thinks about that comment. "You're gonna make an interesting god of war, Wonder Woman." Apollo looks on at the whole ordeal, while Diana brings Ares to the ferry. They'll carry him on. They sail off. Now you may think that this tale may be done, but now Wonder Woman is the god of war. So what's gonna happen next with Zeus, Hera, Apollo, and the firstborn? Make sure you stop by next time to find that out. Follow me on Twitter at Comicstorian and Instagram at Comicstorian.